Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in again. This video actually connects to the video that I did last week. And last week was, what if your expectations are larger than your preparation? And if you didn't hear that one, go ahead and go back to my videos on YouTube and scroll to that one. It was a really good one about how you can want something, but if you haven't prepared for it, then you can't expect it to just fall into your lap. And so today's video is about what happens if your preparation exceeds your expectations. And this one landed on me because I was thinking about how oftentimes we prepare ourselves, we read the information, we practice our cognitive skills and our conversation skills and our listening skills, our active listening skills, with friendships and family members and children, etc., so that we can have those same skills when we get into a romantic relationship. We go to therapy and talk about our defensiveness, and we figure out why that's there, and we access our core beliefs and our trauma responses and our internal wounds, and we really delve deep into our own internal knowing in order to exist in the world in a state that prepares us for a relationship, the one that is the desire of our heart. But what happens when you've done all of that preparation and you find yourself in a relationship where it's not meeting your expectations? And not only is it not meeting your expectations, but it's not really what you signed up for in the first place. And you find yourself longing for the outcome that you've prepared yourself for. The first thing that we think about is how much we've prepared. So I've prepared so much that I think that I'm owed this expectation. And that may be true. But if you've only prepared you and you have your internal knowing in check, that doesn't mean that you're going to control that other person. And so I talk all the time about how picking is important, and picking is very important. But we can't think that just because we've prepared so much that we're going to automatically just get our expectations met by that other person. If you're not getting what you prepared for, there's a reason behind that. Either you two need to grow together. That person needs to grow in a space where you're not in it. Because what'll happen is, if you've prepared so much and that person isn't at the space that you're at because of your preparedness, you'll start to try to change and grow that other person. And we all know that growth doesn't happen because of someone else controlling it. It may happen based on their influence. But if you try to control someone else's change and they only change for you, they don't change because they really want to have the result of true change. So just because you're ready for it doesn't mean that you're going to get exactly what you expect or you perceive to be what you should have. So you have to resolve in your brain that you're only going to accept what you expect. So you have to think about how much you've prepared for this. And I know I always relate it to the professional realm, but when you think about professionally, if you're applying for a job and that job doesn't meet your monetary expectations, that job is beneath your credentials and abilities, unless you're in a place of desperation, you're going to forego that opportunity and wait for something that meets your qualifications and your expectations. And the same is true of relationship. So I've prepared for this. So I'm going to wait based on the amount of time that I've spent getting myself ready to be in the situation, in the relationship that I expect. I'm going to wait for that to come because I value the time that I spent preparing for it. And the second thing is, there's this thought and belief that when you're in a relationship, the way that you respond to that other person changes you. And sometimes when you're in a healthy relationship, the person that you're with can influence you in a healthy and positive way, and that's amazing. But what happens when you find yourself, no matter how much you've prepared, in a relationship where that person is toxic to you, and so therefore you're acting out of character. Well, the thing is, if the situation that you're in is requiring you to level down your character to meet them where they are, then you're literally taking all of your preparedness and throwing it out the window. You're not going to be able to use any of those tactics that you've acquired because the person that you're with and their character requires you to come down to their level in an effort to make that happen. But here's the thing, it's a choice. You're choosing to allow this situation to change your character and to make you respond in such a way that you wouldn't normally respond. And if that's the case, then whatever you did to prepare, you might as well not even have done it. Because if you're allowing yourself to be influenced in such a capacity at which you're changing your character in an effort to stay in that relationship, in an effort to respond to that person, then you're in a relationship that doesn't meet your expectations, but now you're becoming somebody who looks like they weren't even prepared in the first place. If you've decided that the situation that you're in makes you reciprocate in such a way that is a response to what they're putting out, then you have to ask yourself, is it really worth it? Because you're not acting as yourself in that situation. You're being somebody else. So when you went through those stages of preparing, you prepared for the you that you unearthed to have this expectation. But now you're in this situation and you've literally thrown that you that you unearthed to the side and said, okay, I'm willing to become this other person that is not you just to stay in the space. You're being somebody that you don't even recognize just to be in that space. So what was the point of ever preparing in the first place if you were willing to throw yourself away, become this new character in an effort to stay? If you're prepared or your preparation exceeds your expectation in such a way that you have to get rid of what you prepared in an effort to meet that person where they are, you have to be defensive because they're always a threat. You have to be defensive because they're always accusing you. They yell, so then you yell, and none of that is who you are. That space isn't for you. And then the last one is know when it's time to go. And I'm a huge proponent of marriage. I don't really love divorce. And there is no shame in knowing that this person presented themselves as a representative and they've abandoned the relationship that you thought that you were getting into. They pretended that they could meet those expectations that met your preparation, and now they've abandoned that person to become who they truly are. Sometimes that's just, it is what it is, and you have to go. And so even though I love marriage and I think that marriage in its biblical sense is a very beautiful thing, I also understand that sometimes when we get into these situations, that the list of things that make divorce permissible exist inside of those relationships. And so therefore we have to go. And I also know what it's like to be in an abusive relationship and feel shame and guilt that you can't leave because your religion and your spiritual knowing says that it's not okay to do so. But I also know that we serve a God who wants us to be loved and adored the way that he loves and adores us. So sometimes you have to understand that you've prepared, that you've sat with God and you've allowed him to grow you spiritually, and that sometimes that means that the situation that you find yourself in is not meeting your expectations for what joy looks like, for what sharing your testimony looks like, for what being a model to the world looks like, and you have to know when to go. So today I encourage you to continue to prepare yourself, but also to not let go of the expectation that you have for something that's good. And when you're looking at that expectation, don't make it something outlandish, but let it be the desires of your heart and hold true to those, because God is going to bring you something that is more beautiful than you could have ever imagined. Just keep preparing yourself. Know who you are. Know who you're unearthing. Get yourself ready to be the type of person that can be in the space that you desire to be in. Don't allow anyone to control who you are and your character. Stay true to the preparedness that you've gone through. And if it's time to go, allow yourself to do that and be okay with it. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.